Wild, Wild West Wizard of Oz today with Tom Hutchinson. And then also, we're talking Invincible, and we saved it for the podcast. So look out, everybody. This is going to be a doozy here on Two Geeks and a Microphone.
Hello there. So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
I'll talk first today, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am your co-host, Mr. Stephen Boster, along with the one, the only, the new author himself, Mr. Mike Shanks. Mike, say hey to everybody.
Good morning to all you geeks out there in Geekdom Land.
All right. Do you want to introduce our special guest? Because I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yes, we have the wonderful Wizard of Oz himself, Mr. Tom Hutchinson. I was trying to think of a way I could bring you in and connect it to Wizard of Oz, so I figured that was the best.
That'll work. That'll work. Do I need to change my name to the wizard down at the bottom here?
There you go. Just don't put any slashes in it, otherwise.
Right. Avoid. Yes.
We learned that one the hard way. Well, welcome, Tom. Tom is the creator of this book right here
that Mike has been showing every week.
I got it. Yeah.
No.
Since you were here in St. Louis for the MegaCon, and I've been chipping away at it, reading a little bit here and there. I'm almost all the way through it. So far, I really like what I got, what I've read. I like your take on the Wizard of Oz universe. It's a really different, something I've never seen before, and I like to call. I like to call Dorothy. I like to describe her as Dorothy meets. Annie Oakley. That's
sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Our Dorothy is a gunslinger. She's got her ruby pistols and bullets and spurs, and Toto's her horse. Yeah. It's been a fun thing to build and create. It's coming up on its 15-year anniversary in a couple of years as far as existence. 15 years for our company next year, and then the following year is Oz's 15-year anniversary.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a really interesting book because, and I've had this conversation with other people before, is as I started to develop this thing, and I had to turn all of these characters into sort of their Western counterparts. What I found was that it was almost easy to do, and I give that credit back to L. Frank Baum, who created the original characters, but he created these characters and these personas and this entire world in such a way that it's almost easily malleable into something else. And so I've joked with people before, like, give me an Oz character, and in 10 minutes, I'll have it fleshed out as a Wicked West character.
Nice.
It's happened over and over again. I go to an Oz convention. Well, it's a festival, but an Oz convention in New York every year. They invite me out, called Oztravaganza. And
oh goodness, don't tell my wife that.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's super fun.
He's listening. I think she heard it.
They put me in a parade and everything. Like, it's like, what is happening right now? It's crazy. But
my wife is a huge Wizard of Oz fan.
Oh, then you have to make this happen. It's great. They do all kinds of Oz guests, from the movies, the TV show. They used to have the Munchkins when the Munchkins were still alive. They're pretty much all past now. Right. And so it's kind of transitioning into sort of a new age of Oz people. Gregory Maguire from Wicked has been there before, stuff like that. And
which
so a few years
is
ago,
different than the musical, I hear.
Yes, the book is different from the musical. The movie will be different from the musical. It'll all have its little variations, just like Invincible transition is a little bit different from the comic book. But now, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, Oz has been it's what I call our gateway drug for Big Dog Inc. Because when you come to see us at a con, or you just find the book in general, you won't know what it is, but you know what Oz means, because it's just part of pop culture. And so if you have any sort of awareness of Oz that you have an interest in, it should be something that you pick up and just gravitate towards, immediately. Like, oh, like, what is this Oz thing? And then for, like I said, at the convention, it's filled with a lot of traditionalists. They like the book, they like the movie, the original movie. They do like Wicked, but they don't always like everything else, all the other,
Right.
iterations of Oz. And so for my first few years, I would get all sorts of like weird side eye looks, like, what is going on? What is that guy doing with this book? But over time, I would keep coming back. I have been to this show now 12 straight years. And so the traditionalists now are sort of forced to deal with me. And so I've seen them over and over again. And eventually they would come over. They'd be like, all right, you're here like 5 years. Like, what is this thing that you have? And I tell
And it took them 5 years to
oh, easily. There are still some that won't look at me, and I see them
my
every year, and they won't have anything to do with me. But
Your
I'm
Wicked
slowly
banner-
breaking down the walls.
Your Wicked West banners what drew my eye to you. You
Sure.
know, that's what brought me over there. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was a curiosity, and partially is because my wife is a huge Wizard of
Mhm.
Oz fan, so I'm indirectly a big Wizard. I mean, I've watched Wizard of Oz since I was a kid. Of course, we all have. I'm not the level that my wife is. She's more Wizard of Oz, and I'm more Star Wars.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
but through her, I have this appreciation for the medium,
Mhm.
for the media. And when I see yours, and I'm like, ooh, this looks like an interesting take. So that's what drew me over to you. So
Yeah, and that's what eventually happened. Is they were like, okay, tell me what this is, and I'm like, well, this is it. This is how it works. This is where it came from. And when I get them to buy the book, invariably they come back and they're like, oh, I get it. You have read the books. You do know the source material. You are respecting Baum. You, even though it's this, gunfighter Dorothy, it's still grounded in Baum. And I
Right.
think that's why it
Mm.
works sort of across, different interest levels and so on. There's those that just love the steampunk element and they're like, give me that. And then there's like, well, I just love Oz, give me that. And then there's people that are like, well, I only care about what Baum did, and they can see the influence of Baum through the book. And so it just kind of has worked really well.
oh yeah, so
That's
far
cool.
what I've read, it seems that you've stayed very true, to his original ideas and such. But you put your own Western spin on it, and
Right.
I like the Western spin. I think it's neat.
Well, tell
grew
Hollywood
up-
that, because we almost had this sold as a TV show a number of years ago.
Oh,
And when we kind of got to the final boss of the studio, there were two guys, and one of them was basically like, Westerns don't sell. Now, this was like 10 years ago or so. Westerns don't sell. And I'm like, do you understand the history of Hollywood, sir? Because everything is Westerns. And had we done it, we would have been ahead of the curve of literally everything is a Western now, with Yellowstone and all this, like everything's,
Yeah.
we would have been ahead of that wave. But he was like, yeah, Westerns don't sell, so I don't know that we want to do this. And then the other guy was like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I have like a storyboard for you. Like, you can take this to your guys and just start filming tomorrow. Like, it's ready to go. I mean, I don't know what I can tell you to help
Right.
you get it if you don't get it. But the guy that was helping me sell it, he was like, dude, this is Hollywood. This is it. It's not about getting to the top of a ladder. It's about getting to the top of the right ladder. It's the right people at the right time in the right place that understand how to take this to another medium, and so on and so on. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I get it. I was disappointed, but it was a great experience to do it. It got my toe dipped in the Hollywood pool a little bit. And the fact that, even we got noticed to potentially pitch is amazing. So,
right.
I don't think Hollywood has seen the last of us, and it's just a matter of like I said, next year's our 15-year anniversary for the company. We're going to be touring a lot all over the place. We're going to be going back to places I haven't been in many, many years. So it's sort of going to be a little bit of a renaissance for us, I hope. And within that scope, maybe we catch somebody's eye again.
Gotcha. Stephen, I think you were trying to say something earlier.
Well, everybody before the show, we got talking and running away with stuff. We're like, oh gosh, we got to save it for the podcast. But we talked about nostalgia a little bit.
Yeah.
My dad brought me up using Westerns as like teachable moments, life teachable moments and stuff. So it's been fun to listen to Mike just rave about the book every week. Kind of a thing. So that's why I was like, this morning, I was like, all right, I got to buy it, but do you have it digitally? And then we started getting to a great conversation. So I'm going to bring it up because we're like, oh, we got to say this for the podcast. So Tom, you've got a certain perspective of physical media versus digital media. So you want to shoot out your opinion real quick. And he was quite animated when we started. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I hate digital comics. I mean, I'll just make a shirt that says that. I hate digital comics. I'll wear it wherever I need to go.
Dude,
I understand.
You should do that for the cons.
I know, right? Buy more paper. It's a personal thing for me, and I'm 50 something years old, and so I grew up with comics. It's only paper. It's all that existed. I'm a very tactile person. I like to pick up the book. I like to open it. I like the smell of the paper, the ink, whatever. All that kind of stuff goes together in the comic book experience for me. Even new books, they still have a smell to them from the ink and so on. So
yeah, I agree.
I understand the digital concept. I understand the desire to send things digitally, both from a sort of an environmental sense with paper and all of that. Except that all that stuff exists on servers, and all that stuff takes energy, and it doesn't work in any capacity that we're trying to save the universe by making digital comics. It doesn't work. So
say it's not so, Tom.
So the one thing I do get is space, right? Space is a hard thing. We don't all have endless bookshelves and all that kind of stuff. So space, 100%, I understand the digital thing, because
we don't all have hard drive space either.
This is true. So it's always been a tricky thing for me. And when we do digital, we do offer it, but it's usually just part of our Kickstarter campaigns, because we do know that there's a lot of people specifically overseas that want our stuff, but they don't want to pay like $50 for shipping, and shipping is brutal. And so we do make those offers. We still sell a lot of paper stuff and send it over because they want books as well. But we do get some people that are overseas that are like, dude, I can't spend $100 for all of these books. And I'm like, I get it. We have digital options. But that's really the only time that we offer the digital stuff. It's sort of a piecemeal element as we do our Kickstarters.
So when's your next Kickstarter?
January. We kick off the we kick off the 15-year anniversary in January with the final issue. Well, not the final issue of this arc of our superhero series called Critter that we've been working on. It'll be issue 25 in the overall series. There you go. There's Critter. Right
now, Mike says that's your superhero one, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
That was the book that I started with. When I was like, hey, I'm going to be a writer. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So, but what I felt like I understood was
I understood that.
I understood the genre of superheroes, right? Because I grew up with superheroes, Batman and Wonder Woman and Spider-Man on TV, all this stuff. I grew up with superheroes. So I felt like, okay, I'm learning how to write, but I understand superheroes. I know how to sort of take us through the beginnings to the losing to the bad guys, and then finding a way to win at the end, sort of the 3-act bit. And so that I created Critter. Step back. I originally wanted to be an artist, and I was drawing the X-Men and whatever, and I got really bored of drawing the X-Men, and so I created a character of my own to draw, because I thought that would be more interesting, a little more creative, because I'm creating a character, and that was Critter. In the back of business class in 1992, I was drawing Critter, and my professor in business class, he would always come up and talk to me. He's like, "You're not paying attention, are you?" I'm like, "Not really." He's like, he's like, but you're passing like the tests and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But but this is kind of what I want to do. And he was like, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And so he was really cool. He understood that I understood the concepts he was trying to teach, but that I needed to take them in a different direction. And, many years down the line, we started Big Dog Inc. And so all of that kind of, fused together.
Oh,
But
wow.
Critter was who I created to just draw her over and over and over and over and again. But eventually I realized, like, okay, but now even if I can draw her well, now I got to draw cars and trees and horses and buildings and all this other stuff. And I'm not advancing fast enough to make that happen. And so I fell back into, well, what if I could write a comic book and have someone else draw it? And so I used her as the basis of, like, okay, what is her story? Who is she? What does she do? And so I started to create her through all of these sketches that I had. And it evolved into eventually what it is now. And I took my dumb pencil drawings from business class, sent them to an artist and said, look, help me. I need this fixed because this is not good enough. But here's my ideas. Here's the things that I kind of want her to wear and have, and so on, utility belts and all that. And Adam Withers and Comfort Love helped me design Critter and a whole bunch of the original characters from the early parts of the book. And we were off and running. We had like a real honest looking superhero, her friends and her bad guys. And I had a general story of, like, okay, this is where she starts and this is kind of where we want to go with it all. And I just started writing, and now Oz has now done 6 volumes of Oz. Critter, as we get to issue 25 in January, that'll be the end of the 6th volume of Critter as well. So where I'm all in on her, and it's one of those things that it's like we kind of talked about it behind the in the green room. Like, I'm very stubborn. I don't listen to what people tell me. And I've been told many times, you can't do this, you can't do that. I've heard the industry and stuff tell people, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Hold my beer.
And I think that I think existing for 15 years and outlasting some of these publishers that have had millions of dollars put behind them and they don't exist anymore. I think we've shown that what we have is viable. We're not Brian Pulido. We're not doing $400,000 Kickstarters, but we're viable. We continuously fulfill our campaigns. We move on to another one. We do horror, Western, superheroes, kaiju, jungle. I mean, we do everything. Wow. Historical fiction.
Everybody tells you don't jump genres. They tell you pick a genre and stick with it.
Yeah, I don't ever want to stand in one box. That is not me.
Love it.
I
love it.
That's the most boring existence I could possibly imagine, is just writing horror, just writing superheroes, just writing Westerns. Like, now I get it, like in the Stephen King sense, right? He's the master of horror or whatever. And you can sort of make your place in those genres if you can really, if you can make that work. But for
like
me,
Brandon Sanderson in fantasy.
Exactly.
Supernatural
100%.
thriller would be Dresden Files. I can't butcher.
Exactly. But for me, my brain doesn't let me sit in one place for too long. So if I come in, like right now, I'm writing 3 different scripts. I'm writing Critter. I'm writing 4 scripts. I'm writing Oz. I'm writing my theological book called Penny for Your Soul. And I'm writing a shark book called It's Only an Island If You Look at It from the Water. So I'm writing 4 completely different genres at the same time. Wow. And so when I come down in the morning and I'm like, okay, I have to do some writing today, it's basically like, which part of the brain is working? Is it Shark Day? Is it Angels and Demons Day? Is it Oz Day? Like, where am I that day? And it may be a string of days where I'm knocking out Oz, but then all of a sudden I'm going to hit a wall and I'll be like, you know what? I got to go write some sharks because I it's time for that.
I'm a theological guy, so I'll be getting those Penny for Your Souls. Probably.
Penny for Your Soul, man.
That sounds interesting.
It's a wild book, man. It's a wild book. So the gist of Penny, this was the first book that we ever released 15 years ago. And so basically the idea is a demon decides she wants to get in on the end of days battle between heaven and hell. So she sets herself up in Las Vegas with a hotel and casino and offers to buy her patron souls for $10,000. And of course, heaven and hell take notice of these missing souls and they come looking. And that's what, kind of kicks the whole thing
she's
off.
Aggravated both sides.
Correct. Yeah.
What a great premise. I love it.
generally, when I tell somebody that, they're interested, and then as they're looking through the book, they'll invariably get to a certain page, and I'll be like, "Oh, and Jesus is a televangelist in Las Vegas," and that's the hook. That's it. That's all it takes. And they give me $20. That's pretty much it. So it's a wild book. It's very fun to just go crazy with it. We have, Joan of Arc is like a steampunk angel in there. We have Mary Magdalene and Lucifer, and it's just, I go deep into some of the angel lore that has existed over the years. Enoch, the Book of Enoch, is a musical at the hotel
musical?
and casino.
Oh, my goodness, that's great.
Yeah, the Book of Enoch, the musical. So it's pretty deep if you are into theology. There's a lot of like weird little Easter eggs that get thrown around.
Nice.
And on that one we've done five volumes of that as well.
Okay.
Now that I didn't know anything about.
That's exciting. Well, real quick, I want to say hey to some folks. Real quick. Nobody for anybody's in the house. He goes, hey, all. And then Brenda was, I can't wait to read it. That's Mike's wife.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
And then, okay, now this one, I think this one is in reference to the Oz Fest you talked about in New York. What was that called again?
It's called Ozstravaganza.
Ozstravaganza.
Yeah, it's in Chittenango, New York, which is where L. Frank Baum was born.
Let's get some more details so that Mike's wife has. No, I'm just messing with you, brother.
First Saturday of June every year. First Saturday.
She's laughing now. I can hear her.
Yeah. Geek Girls Gaming. That's Angie. Hey, Angie.
I don't think our F-150 will pull the camper to New York, Brenda.
Oh, by the way, nice compliment for you. Geek Girl says, I love his headphones.
Nice. Very nice.
And all. So that's awesome. And everybody, real quick, I just want to, I want to pop up your website, Tom. I want to make sure everybody gets it. BigDogInc.com.
Yeah. Buy more paper.
BigDogInc.com.
Buy more paper.
Buy more paper.
I'll tell you, dude, you got to do a T-shirt with that on it.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
I love it.
If you don't, we may steal it.
We just may, by golly.
But we don't sell comic books, so.
No, but you do. You
fly to New York.
Do what?
Mom said airplanes fly to New York.
Yeah,
that's right.
You can just fly into Albany. You'll be right there. You'll be pretty close.
Yeah, there we go. Airplanes flying to New York.
Yeah.
Oh
my goodness.
And there's a museum there. There's the All Things Oz Museum there, which we have our books in the museum.
Tom, shut up.
There is the museum in Kansas. I've been to the museum in Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really? Wamego, Kansas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on the other. It's probably
they do a festival too. Yeah, they do a festival too. I'm not sure when they do theirs, but they do a festival too.
See, that might be easier for us to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm not at that.
Okay.
There you go.
Good point. Point taken. All right.
Angie's like, road trip.
I wanted to go back to the digital versus paper for just a second. I have
stirring the pot.
Well, I see. Okay, I used to be in your camp of no, I want everything. I want everything physical. I want to hold it in my hands and so on and so forth. And I get that. And you're right about the texture, the smell. In fact, your books they got a very nice stiff feeling to the pages and stuff. Mm-hmm. Very nice, very nice. And I totally.
I'm glad you said to the pages.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, we're not going there. Anyway, I don't know anything about that, and I don't want to know anything about that. Anyhow, so as far as the digital goes, I have come to appreciate certain things in the digital format. And I know you and I at the con, we talked a little bit of DC and Marvel and how they've went downhill. Mm-hmm. But one thing I think DC and Marvel do great is their digital format, because I love to read their digital comics because they have that option in their readers to where you can double click on a panel and you
Mm-hmm.
get the panel the size of your screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fantastic to be able to look at that and see that one panel enlarged. And I love that. I absolutely love it. So I do have a certain appreciation for the digital, but at the same time, I totally get what you're saying with the physical too. So
Yeah, I mean, there's advantages to digital, certainly. Even zooming. I mean, even sometimes it's just hard to read. A
Yes.
comic. Especially when you're old like me.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh my God, is this too small or am I blind? Like, what's going on?
Yes.
So, there's advantages to digital, and I'm not saying that it has no place in comics at all. But for me, it's just
It's a
not
preference, and that's okay. Yeah,
where
I
wanna
get
be.
it. Absolutely.
But I also
appreciate
don't
the
want
discussion.
I don't want to see the physical go away. That's
For sure. Yeah, 100%. There's got to be a nice, middle ground for this, I would imagine. And then, like, for me, for the art, like I just bought a trade paperback yesterday. I got the new Gunslinger Spawn Volume 5. I'm oh my God, what's his name? Dexter Soy is on the book. It was Brett Booth which is why I bought the first 4, because Brett Booth blows my mind. So on this volume, it was a new artist named Dexter Soy, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, God, this is freaking amazing too. Like, but what I like, it wasn't even the reading of the book; it was like the layout of the page and how these artists do what they do to accentuate these moments and make them pop off the page. I'm like, oh my God, like I just love looking at the pages themselves. It doesn't matter what Todd wrote. Sorry, Todd. Doesn't matter what you wrote. I can figure it out just by watching
the panels and
the artists
pages.
do their job, which is fantastic. So again, the zooming in, like it takes away from the entirety of it for me. So again, easy to read for sure. And if you wanted to get in,
great viewpoint.
Yeah, and if you wanted to get in deep and like see the art, like I want to see how he did his inking or whatever, the colors, whatever. Again, it's a good sort of like learning tool, as far as that goes. But as far as the reading experience, I want my eyes to kind of just be washing through the whole thing, because that's the way it was meant to be, looked at.
Well, you could always print them this big.
Print them big, yeah. What's funny is I've been thinking about that. I've thought about doing some oversized books.
Really?
Yeah. Just because a lot of people that buy comics, they're wearing glasses. We're getting old. It's like, I just bought a big trade paperback. Marvel is reproducing all of their, well, I don't know if they're doing all of them, but they've done a couple of the cross-gen stuff from many, many years ago. They bought this company called CrossGen, which I loved back in the day, and they bought it and it just basically became defunct through Marvel. But Marvel is now reprinting all that stuff in these big omnibus books. But the books that they're producing are oversized. So they're not normal comic size. They're a little bit bigger, And so I bought one of these things and I was reading it and I realized that I could see it a lot better. I was like, wait a minute. I think there's something here to this like slightly larger format that I like as an older reader. And so it just kind of got in my head, like, what if I did this? What would be the reaction? Would people care? Would they be for it, against it? Again, when you do oversized stuff, it changes the dynamics. You have to have different bags and boards. You have to have a different box for storage, all that kind of stuff. So it changes the dynamics a little bit.
I have no idea how I'm going to store this thing.
Right. You have to like do them sideways or like, like that. Yeah. So there's some dynamics to it that are different. But I think also if I were to do that, in theory, the book should stand itself out as well. Right. Even if it's just on my table, like you'll have this one sort of bigger one next to like the normal ones, and people are like, well, why is that one bigger? It's like, because that's cooler. Like, awesome. Bigger is better. So I've thought about it, even if it's maybe just in the context of our reprints, like our trade paperbacks and hardcovers. Maybe we just make those a little bit bigger, and because then again, you can put that on your shelf, and there's less problems with the storage unit and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. But I did like it. So who knows?
Yeah. As far as the print goes, you make a great point on that. Like Steven said, I just recently put out my first book, The Immortality Code, shameless plug.
On Amazon now, you can get physical or digital.
Yes, you can't get it digital. I put mine out in digital. So anyway, and you can get it on the Kindle. What do you call it, Stephen? If you subscribe to Kindle. But when I got my first print of the book, I noticed my font was very small, and I was like, "Oh crap! I should not have. I should have verified the size of the font before I had this published and everything." And unfortunately, that was too late. I can't change that now. But I'm like, next one it's going to be a bigger print because I'm having a hard time seeing this. You don't have that problem in the digital. You can make it as big as you like.
Yeah. That's a very fair analysis. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. Well, are we ready to? Do we want to jump into Invincible, or Tom? This has been a fabulous conversation because part of me is like, we'll do Invincible later, but I got to get to Mike on the.
We'll do whatever you want to do. I am perfectly happy to rabbit hole anything we want to rabbit hole. We were talking about Godzilla and Star Wars and stuff. I loved your opening. Like, who talks first? You talk first. I talk first. Like, that was great. That was awesome. I think Force Awakens is a fantastic movie. There's a lot of people, I remember when it came out, they were really down on it. I was like, I don't think you watched the same movie. I've watched that movie now like probably 100 times. I love it more and more and more. And I've had plenty of discussions trying to explain, like, you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. Like, let me explain this to you. There was even one guy, I remember the weekend it came out, there was a dude who was complaining about it. He's like, well, there's no wipes between the transitions. And I'm like, did you watch the movie? There's wipes everywhere in this thing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I think there were people that went in that were, they wanted to not like it because it was J.J. Abrams. Like, they have anti-J.J. Abrams, in them.
Right.
And so it's like, they were like, well, J.J., I don't like what J.J. does, so it's a bad movie. I'm like, well, listen, that's fair. There's plenty of stuff that J.J. does that I don't really vibe on. But in this case, he did it right. And it took Ryan.
I have been known to refer to him as Jar Jar Abrams. I like The Force Awakens. I think it's actually the strongest of the three.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, and I thought it had great potential. I was looking forward to the full story. I wasn't. I was one of these ones who kept saying, "I'll judge it when we get all three stories."
Sure.
I don't want to judge it
until Last Jedi came out. Then he was all open.
Now we can judge it.
We're judging. We're definitely judging at that point. But I thought Force Awakens had great potential.
Yes.
And it fell apart when they brought in. What's his face? Who did the second?
Ryan Johnson. Yeah.
Thank you. Ruin Johnson. Yes.
And that's the sole reason why, even though Rise of Skywalker is still a weak movie, I enjoy it because I was watching this film in real time where J.J. Abrams was saying, no, forget what Ryan did over here. We're not going to do that. We're going to fix that and do it over here. I was like, oh my God, wow, this is wild to watch this retcon in real time of a lot of these concepts. And so Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker has all kinds of its own problems because it was trying to fix the things that Ryan Johnson kind of broke when he kicked over the Lego tower. And
I like that.
Yeah. There is a great video. If you guys ever want to go look for this at some point, there's a great video from Rise of Skywalker where somebody took the end scene where Kylo Ren is running. He lands his ship on Exegol and he's running to go save Rey, right? And they re-edited it a little bit so it's a little shorter, but and he's fighting the Knights of Ren. He's doing all this stuff, but they put the music "I'm Holding Out for a Hero" over it. Nice. So it's "I'm holding out for a hero," and he's running around doing the thing. I'm like, this just makes me love this even more. Like this was fantastic. Like I even loved and people it took a minute for people to kind of catch this too. It was a little homage back to Han There's a shot where he pulls the lightsaber out from behind him, and all the Knights of Ren are like, "Yo, what just happened?" And he gets a little like shrug like that. I was like, "Yo, that's his dad. That's what Han did on Endor when the he was like, oh, sorry, this is what goes on." I was like, that's a great little nod back. So there's good stuff in those movies, but they unfortunately stubbed their toe and didn't land. Didn't land.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. There is good stuff throughout it. It's just you got to pick and choose what you like.
100%. Even in Last Jedi, there's stuff that I think is kind of cool. Like I did enjoy the idea that the two of them could kind of coexist and sort of see each other, and then like matter could somehow, I don't know how the hell it happened, but like matter could like transport through. Like I just thought that was an interesting idea. But again, a lot of these ideas that they dropped in. Even in the first one, they keep talking about there's been an awakening. Like, what does that mean? We don't know what that means. They have all these concepts that they drop in, but then they never
developed them or explained them.
Right. They're just moving too fast.
Who's the girl? That's a story for
and then Rian Johnson tells us, she's nobody. Never mind.
Forget
it.
Yeah.
And then of course the polar opposite of that decision is, she's a Palpatine. Oh no. Like it's This is why
you write your story ahead of time, folks.
Right.
And then she steals the Skywalker name.
Yep. Okay. Well, we better hit Invincible.
Let's
because I got some questions for Mike on Invincible. So,
okay. Let's go.
All right.
It's time for the main event. I guess technically both of these are our main event.
Yeah,
Tom with us.
It's a double card. It's a double card. You're fine.
It sure is, by golly.
Well, I did put that in the description that we were going to be talking about Wicked West. And
oh yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Tom, we are so thankful you're with us. This is great.
And
it's always fun to chat.
The Star Wars stuff is just a bonus. So
yep. All right, everybody. So what we do is we just give each of our overviews, no spoilers just yet. What we liked about the series. In this case, we did season 1 of Invincible, and then we'll give our rating out of 10. But we usually pick something from the show to make our rating. So something out of 10, or we'll do our number, and then we'll do.
I haven't even thought what we'd use for a rating for this. Could be disembodied arms.
I'll go with it. Let's do it.
Disembodied arms. Okay. 1 being the worst ever, 10 being the best you've seen.
Yes.
So going into this, I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
And watching it, I came out really enjoying it. It's a different type of story, a little bit different type of story. We got some regular superhero cliches through it that you get in majority of superhero stories, but for the most part, the twist is really good. Not sure I'm happy with the twist. but I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to make this really quick. So with that said, I will give it 8.5 disembodied arms.
Okay. 8.5 disembodied arms. Okay. That's the half is kind of fitting for the show.
That's why I did it.
Right on. So I first watched it about a year ago, and I rewatched it for today. And I after the first episode, and I'm going to stop there, but that hooked me big time. Because of a twist in there, and we'll talk about that, everybody. I mean, it's spoilers. We'll get to those in a minute. And so I ended up watching it. Now, did I have some Steven Skip moments in there? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the question. Yes.
Yeah, I had some Steven Skips.
Did you?
Tom, those are moments where sometimes I'm just like, hey, let's move the story along, and so I'll hit the 15-second skip button.
Yep.
Sometimes several times.
We do have a T-shirt for this, by the way.
Yeah, that like skip this kind of a thing with my little 15-second button. So So I did Steven skip some stuff because I was like, okay, let's move it along because I love the bigger arc, the whole big arc of of the story. But I enjoyed it, and so I give it a good 8 out of 10 disembodied arms.
Nice.
Kind of a thing. I enjoyed it. I do want to see season 2. I'll put it to you that way, even.
Oh yeah. We're definitely watching season 2. I want to know how this story carries on. That's
And I will say this: I even paid for the let's get through the commercials. I don't want to see commercials while I'm watching this. The $2.99 for the month, just so I don't have to watch the commercials. Because I was thinking of my time. I'm thinking, man, how many commercials am I going to be watching? I added it up. Oh yeah, $2.99 compared to how much I make an hour. Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh my
god. Tom, how about you, man?
It's terrible. No, I'm kidding. It's I come at it differently from you guys because I was reading the comic well before this show came out, and I love the comic book. In fact, it inspired a bit of Critter. He used to call his comic book the best superhero comic book in the universe. That used to be the tagline across the top of the comic book.
Oh yeah.
And so I then said, well, if that's the best, then the best we can be is the second best. And so we would put the second best superhero comic in the universe on the top of our book. So
I read that and I was like, I wonder what he's talking about. I wonder what he's calling it. Wow. Yeah. Oh, by the way, kudos on your S's in the second best superhero, because those are Kiss S's, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people notice that. Yeah.
Are you a Kiss fan?
I'm in general.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up with them when they were coming up in the 70s and 80s
too.
and all that. So
I'm a huge Kiss
I'm not like a card carrying Kiss Army member, but yes, I like Kiss. Yeah.
Yes, I've had the Kiss Army card.
But yeah, so it's interesting that you talk about the Steven moments, because there in the comic there are definitely Steven skips moments in the comic.
Really?
Kirkman, in all the things that he does, let's be honest, this is even in The Walking Dead, Kirkman gets a little long-winded sometimes. I'm not sure he's the greatest at pacing a comic book. But he does try and get a lot in there. He tries to give you a lot, as far as the comic goes. So when he had to come over to Invincible for the TV show, he had to rewrite what he was doing to make it tighter. Because he's only getting whatever it is, like 8 episodes, right? To do what he did in like the first dozen or 15 episodes, that he had to kind of tighten this all up. So the fact that there's still Steven skips moments is kind of an interesting, analysis of how Kirkman writes. But yeah, I liked that it was tighter. I was fully aware of I think this is the downside to me, is that because I knew what was going to happen, it wasn't quite as dramatic for me. I was like, yeah, I mean, the twist is still cool, and the moment is cool and everything, but because I knew the story, I was like, I was far more spectator than people that were going in without knowing what the heck is going on. And so while I liked it, I didn't find anything that sort of leveled it up within the animated universe. So I would probably land it at about a 7 disembodied arms, maybe add a few toes.
I love it. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
7 arms and some toes.
One of the things, so when we were younger, we were collecting comics together, and we would talk, and this was when Maximum Carnage was out. It was a big one, Spider-Man. And
I love Maximum Carnage.
He does. I got into it, but I couldn't complete the series because I'm like, I'm not used to the Spider-Man comic with all these people getting killed at a mass level, kind of a thing. I struggled with that. And
he's called Carnage for a reason, by the way.
Oh, I know. That's the discussion. That's what we keep going back.
Well, and
we've had this discussion for 30 years.
Part of why Invincible exists is because Kirkman wanted to do that. He wanted to take the superhero concept and genre and push it into a more violent thing that we weren't getting from Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and whatever.
Yeah,
that was part of his whole we're going to really mess around over here and we're going to go a little crazy with it. Of course,
And
the book was almost canceled multiple times too. So, in the early days.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I accept it more out of the series. I got where it was going with it because I was like, oh, this is a little bit more violent, and okay, it's that kind of genre, and so I kind of accepted it better.
Sure.
I don't know why I accepted it better out of Invincible than I did Maximum Carnage way back when, but maybe because
I think you just said it. You said that you weren't used to that kind of violence within Spider-Man, and this you're going in new. This you're going in fresh and new, and
right?
You don't know anything about the character. So I think
if you have no preconceived notions, you can just sort of accept like, okay, this is what it is. But if Spider-Man is suddenly like punching people through the face, that's a whole different, type of. Like, hey, Spider-Man doesn't like punch his hands through people's faces, like that doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay, Megan.
Megan's in play. Here's
your chance, Megan.
Welcome,
Tom,
Megan.
This is my daughter, Megan.
Hello, Megan.
I think you met her at the con too, so she was with me.
That's my chance.
You said when we were watching Invincible, I think it was you that said there was a particular thing Steven always says about his characters.
No, that was Mom.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can be Mom's voice.
Color me intrigued.
So Mom made the point that you like your good guys to be good guys and your bad guys to be bad guys.
I do.
So how did you feel about this?
Okay, well, wait a minute. Should we do our? I need to put in my spoilerific territory here?
How old is this series now?
It's been a year and a half, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Right now, you're probably not seeing it anyway. So
yeah, well, we gave the spoiler alert on a 50-year-old movie for Dracula. Which, by the way, do not watch that movie.
Yeah,
don't watch that, and do not for any reason watch Werewolf Santa. That is quite possibly the worst movie ever made.
Well, we'll have to talk about some worst movies because, my friend, I have seen some worst movies.
Oh, this sounds like an episode in the making.
Sounds like it to me. So why don't we do that? Why don't we have you back for when you do your Kickstarter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's do that. That way we can support your Kickstarter and let people aware of it. Okay. Sure. How shall I say this? So I was indubitably shocked at the end of the first episode. And so as everybody knows, Omni-Man is the big, Superman type character. We're here to save everyone and stuff. And here's these guardians. And I love the first episode. Let me just say that episode was a 10 for me. Just that episode alone. I enjoyed it so much. And then here's this whole team. They get together like, oh, this is great. We're going to have all these heroes together. We're going to have all this stuff. And then at the end, when the superhero, who you're like, oh, this is all set up because he's superhero and here's his son. There's this dynamic going on. Okay, cool. And then he sits there and he murders everybody. I was like, and it was not just, oh, they're dead. It was violently they were dead, which you would think would be kind of like a superhero showdown anyway, openly. And I'm like, this is really good. So then I realized
Dude, you need to revisit Carnage now.
I probably do, to be open with you. You're probably correct. But here's the thing. I would say, but it set it up that I'm like, oh my goodness, he really is a bad guy. Something has occurred. It must have something to do with his son getting his powers. And then, oh my goodness, he is still half human. So I was like, I could see that was going to be the dynamic of where they were going. And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. And so that's where I was like, that was the dynamic I was looking at. So a lot of things, the side love stories and in the girl drama, I was like, skip, kind of a thing, because I wanted to see the father-son dynamic and what would happen. And for me, it did not disappoint. So to say that I like my good guys good and my bad guys bad, it did blur the line on some of them and why, especially with Robot.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And I didn't see that coming. Where he stands, really. I mean, I wasn't clear on whether he's really a good guy still or not.
Well, everything I do for you. You know, it's a whole love story kind of a thing, I think, is what's driving him on
Well,
that.
yeah, between him and Monster Girl, I get that.
Yes. So I was like, okay, it was unique. So the thematic stuff overall, I really enjoyed. So that was me, kind of a thing. So I'm okay. I'm to be open about a little gray here with good guys being good and bad guys being bad, kind of a thing, because it's their struggle, kind of a thing for me. So
I was curious of where you stood on that, because you're usually pretty
I usually am pretty adamant. Well, if I don't like taking a bad guy who has been, the expectation is a bad guy. So let's take the whole Disney, let's make the bad guys relatable. I don't really like those. I'll watch them to see what they do with them. I think Cruella was probably one of my favorites, kind of a thing. And I did enjoy this, but at some point they are bad for a reason. I don't want to feel sorry for the bad guy. I want someone, for the hero, to root against. So don't mess that up for me. I struggle with that. Now, but I'm open to how the story develops. I don't think some of those stories have been done well. It's just, let's just make them relatable. Well, no, what's their internal conflict? What's really happening? What's really going on? Before I get too philosophical, sorry.
Well, yeah, sympathetic villains are fine, but you can't make everybody a sympathetic villain. Like,
right.
It just, it loses the edge that you need for villains to be villains. I mean, obviously something made them a villain, clearly, but and it can even be bad things that happen to them that turn them into a villain. But you can't try and create stories that are just like, oh, look, everybody's misunderstood and such. No, some people, you just have bad people.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes some people just like to watch the world burn.
Yes. And one of the, this is not a spoiler. It is a little bit, but I'm going to drop it anyway. Later in the comic book, there's an arc and a period of time that I really hope they put into the show, because it was so good. And there's a bad guy. His name is Dinosaurus, and he's basically a big red Tyrannosaurus Rex who wears a cape. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's that's all you need to know. But he's a great villain because he's such a jackass. But what's interesting about him is when he does his villainy, he's doing his villainy out of a thought process, because he is a genius. He is a genius dinosaur. He's doing it out of a thought process of, no, yeah, this is bad, but wait until I'm done and see how it all works out. And Mark, Invincible, starts, he's fighting with this guy because he's killing people and stuff. He's like, you got to stop this.
Wait,
and Dinosaurus,
before you said Invincible, we should have switched to his logo.
Yeah, Invincible. And so Mark finally kind of starts to realize, like, oh, wait a minute, he is doing something. There is a plan here, even though it's all bad. When you get to the end of the bad, there's something good at the end of that. And it's a really interesting period of time where Mark is starting to,
do the ends justify the means? Right.
So the comic has a lot of stuff in it, man. It's a long 25 volume book, and there's a lot in it. And when you get to season 2, man, it picks up the pace. I'll tell you that. You're still going to have Steven skips moments. There's still too much of the relationship stuff. You're not going to want that. But the rest of it really does pick up the pace and really moves quickly. I'm really crossing my fingers that Dinosaurus is in his plans.
In season, yeah. Well, we were going to watch season 2 to get ready before season 3 comes out.
Do you know when? Is there a drop date for that yet?
I think it is. I want to say it's.
Hop on that, Tito.
I'm trying to get my mouse to move.
First quarter. I want to say first quarter, like March or something.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I think.
Now I have to say, I hate the name of the team group.
Google says February.
February.
It's February.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, February.
I hate the name of the team group. Team. That's a bad name. Come on.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Better.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I was like, come on, Rob, you could do better than this. What the hell?
Right.
What were you thinking, man? Team? That's just dumb. Dumb.
Now, Mike, what did you think about the end of the first episode? Because I was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with Mike once he sees this first episode and setting it all up?
It's a little mind blowing. Seeing
Pardon the pun.
Yeah, literally. Seeing the Superman character actually murdering everyone, just like you said. My initial thought was, okay, wait a minute, is he being controlled by somebody? Because there was part of me that wanted him to be the actual good guy. You know, I was having a little hard time accepting. No, this can't be real. This can't be what's actually happening. There's got to be something else.
Yeah, it's an Empire Strikes Back moment. He's not really his dad. There's no way.
Right?
That's
yes.
not real.
That
Yes,
was good. That was good.
That is what I was going through. Excellent analogy. And then when he started talking about his planet and everything, and how they go off and better other planets and stuff, both Megan and I were like,
That's suspicious.
really? Is that really what you guys do? Because I'm not buying it, you know. So yeah, I was struggling with that a little bit, and
well, remember, it's all, you know, there's that old saying that everybody is the hero in their own story. So in the minds of these guys, this race of people, you know, what they're, it's sort of similar to dinosaurs. In their minds, what they're doing is the right thing. We are fixing your culture. We're fixing your planet. We're fixing it. Yeah, we're going to rule over you for all time, but, you know, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it, because, you know, it'll all be fine.
My empire, to quote Anakin. Yeah, Anakin thinks he's the good guy. Even after he's turned over to Darth Vader, he still thinks he's doing good. He thinks that he's benefiting the universe. And yeah, I think you're right. And Omni-Man is the same way, because he's like, look, we're going to make Earth better. You know, which I don't know how you're going to make it better when you kill everybody, but
well, that's the Thanos method. Just fewer people, easier to control, you know. Yeah.
Snap. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I really like the Omni-Man character. I think he's a great character. And I like Mark Invincible too. I think they're both fantastic characters. It's going to be interesting to see this dynamic between the two now that Mark fully knows who his dad is and what he's about, and how Mark is going to end up coming to grips with this, because obviously he's got that bloodline, and that's the thing, is Mark going to remain for Earth? Is he, you know, will he switch over to the dark side? So yeah, I'm looking forward to see where this goes. It's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, what are your favorite parts of the?
Gets a lot deeper. I'm just going to tell you, you guys are at the surface of all of what is happening. So
we've taken one step in a larger world, is what you're saying.
It's correct.
Oh,
yes.
Ooh, intrigue.
One small step for man, one large step for comic book kind.
Yep. What's the name of the character that he meets out at the moon and has talks with him at the moon? And even
I don't remember his...
Alan the alien.
Alan the alien. Yes. Does he keep appearing?
Oh yeah, Alan's a recurring guy throughout the whole, at least throughout the whole comic book series. Yeah.
I like that character. I thought he was pretty cool. Too. He was fun. Yeah, it was funny. My wife was kind of watching bits and pieces of it. She, you know, watching at it, as I like to say. And she goes, so how did it end? Well, the funny thing is, Megan and I were watching the last 2 episodes Thursday night. And by the last one, I was getting really tired, and I'm falling asleep. And I was like, she goes, how does it end? And I said, well, I don't exactly know, because I got to rewatch it, because I fell asleep. And then I went, oh, it ended the exact way it started, with him on the moon talking to that other guy.
Yeah.
That's all I could remember. I was like, yeah, it ended with him talking to that guy on the moon.
Well, Tom, obviously, I mean, you've enjoyed it, because do you have all 25 volumes?
Wow.
And all?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was late. I was late to the party on the book. And so I just started picking up the trades, you know, and that's how I read and finished it off. And then there was a number of years where I couldn't find like the last three. And so I didn't even know how it ended. Like I didn't know how the whole thing ended. And I kind of didn't want to know, cause I had enjoyed the ride. I was like, I don't need to know. I know enough of where I am right now. I don't need to know the real finale, cause then it really is over when it's over,
Okay.
This is true.
And eventually, one of my fans, actually, I told them that I was struggling to find a couple of these last two when I finally got to the last two, and she found them and she sent them to me. She was like, "Here you go," and I'm like, "Oh, now I have to finish it." Like, oh no, like thank you, but now I have to know what goes on.
Let me ask you something. Did you have an ending in your head?
No, I had long since given up figuring out where Kirkman was taking me through all of his lefts and rights and roller coaster. I didn't even try. And that's one of the things that I liked about that series is that because it's not Marvel or DC, it's not heavily licensed. It doesn't have to stick to anything. It can go anywhere. It can do anything. It can kill anyone. Like literally anything can happen. And I think that's one of the great elements of the comic and now in the cartoon is if you're coming into it and you don't know what's going on, your head is going to explode because it doesn't just set within like, hey, this is how superhero things work. This is how we tell a story. It's like, no, forget that, man. Dude's dad is killing the Justice League, like in
right.
Episode, it's like, what is going on? So, and that doesn't stop throughout the comic book. It just keeps going, and you're just like, dude, I am in for this ride. And I'll say that I don't think it stuck the landing. He had a couple of where I expected it to end. I was like, wait a minute, there's still like another volume of this. How are we have another volume after this is clearly your ending? And he kept trying to like do a little more and do a little more and do a little more. So it was okay. I didn't love the ending, but I loved how he finished Walking Dead so much more, where he was just like, just kidding, we're out of here.
Okay.
Do you guys know that story?
I do not.
So the Walking Dead comic book, right? It got up into like the 190s and they had solicited out to like 197 or something. And everybody assumed he'd get to 200 and that would be the end of the book. Because he was already talking about, we're winding down. And so everybody assumed he'd do 200 issues and that would be the end. So they got to 193 or 194. And again, they had solicited out a couple of more issues. So people thought there were more coming. And then when on that day that 193 released, he was like, yeah, by the way, that's the last issue. We're out later. And so what he did was he took away, because in my brain, when you have these long form stories like this, there's no way to have an ending that people will be like, yo, that was a great ending. Like, holy cow. Like, how do you end The Walking Dead? Right. You can't. There's no way to really like finish it. Right. Mm-hmm. So what he did was, instead of allowing the narrative to be, well, Robert Kirkman did 200 issues, but the final issue wasn't that great. Blah, blah, blah. He changed the narrative to, oh my God, it's over right now. What's going on? Why didn't we order more issues? Like, la, 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 la. So he changed the narrative from the ending isn't what we wanted to, oh my God, it's over. And he created an excitement out of this, just cutting it off at this moment. And so I kind of almost wish that Invincible did the same thing, because there's a point down the line where you have this moment where you're like, that's where it should have ended, like right there, just walk away. But he kind of did another 5 or 6 issues and which, and again, it was fine, but I felt like he had a moment of like, wow, that's a finale right there.
I've often wondered, and this is, let me just talk about J.J. Abrams for a minute. I know he's got his whole mystery box thing, but a lot of people really enjoyed Lost and stuff, and I actually never got into it openly. But what I heard over and over again, a lot of with JJ stuff is like, oh, it was great in the storytelling and the arcs and how it all came together and stuff, but at the end, never sticks the landing. And I've always wondered if there were some writers that's just how they are. They're really good at creating series or balances, but they just never quite hit the landing. I was curious if Kirkman was like that or not.
I don't think it's the writer that's the problem. I think it's just that when you have something that goes for a long, just look at TV shows. How many TV shows have had great final episodes? Usually you have a final episode and the fans are like, well, I don't know, it was okay. Like they should have done that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of the finality of it. Like the fans don't want it to go away because they're fans of it. And you get to the end, they have certain expectations like, oh, this guy should be with this guy, Ross should be with Rachel, or, somebody, whatever.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen that way, then the fans are like, well, that was a crappy ending. That's a, blah, blah, blah. Even if it was
Battlestar Galactica. I hated the ending.
The problem that I didn't hate the ending, but it was very clear that there was no actual plan. Like very clear there was no plan. And they were just kind of, like in Battlestar, like they got to Earth and they found out that Earth was just a nuclear char. And I was like, yo, that's a crazy twist. But then, again, they kept going, right? Like if you had ended the series right there, pop, oh, Earth is dead, by the way. See ya. You would have been like, yo,
would have been a great place to
what
end
just
it,
happened, right? But they kept going, and we got what we got. So I think it's a combination. I think sometimes you just have writers that don't know where they're going. They don't know how to finish a story. They don't know how to give the fans what they want, and so on. And then sometimes it's just, look, we have to stop, and this is how we're going to do it, and you guys can like it or not like it.
That's a great perspective. I appreciate that because I loved MacGyver as a kid. I watched every episode of MacGyver and stuff, and then when they finally ended it, I was like, "Oh, okay." But then I also wondered if with some, even with other shows, that it's just, man, it was a great series. The journey was great, but the ending just didn't quite land.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's sometimes you're almost better off just having a show canceled, guys, because the shows that get canceled are the ones that get talked about forever because the people wanted more. Firefly gets talked about forever, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. So if a show lasts, 2-3 seasons maybe, and it's just like pop, it's gone. It's like, people yearn for it and they talk about it forever. I'm still bent out of shape that The River got canceled. Do you guys ever watch The River?
No, I don't
know.
So The River was done by the guys that do the Paranormal Activity movies. No, not that. Paranormal Activity, where it's sort of like the found footage ghost movies, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it was made by those guys, and basically it's an adventure story on the Amazon River where they have to find a guy. They have to save a guy who's out in the jungle, but it's filmed with like cameras on the boat, so it's like still shots, and so it's almost like you're looking occasionally like through like closed caption TV and stuff. It's like CCTV, so it's like weird angles and stuff. I don't want to say like Blair Witch because it's not like Blair Witch, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was a really interesting show. It was like kind of a horror adventure show. And I'm just going to give you the spoiler for the finale, guys, because it was so great. And I was like, oh my God, bring me more of this show. So they finally rescue the guy. They get back to the boat and they're like, oh my God, we made it. Let's get the hell out of this jungle. And they're going down the jungle and, they're relaxing and everything. And they start to, the captain of the boat starts to be like, something's wrong. Like what's going on? Something's wrong here. And they're looking at their map and they're like, this is where we were. This is where we should be, but something's wrong. I'm not understanding what's happening. And they have the boat and they start to pull out on the boat. So you see the boat, you see it on the river, you see the jungle all around it as they're going around. And as you get out far enough, you see the entire jungle moving.
Oh, wow.
It's not letting them out. The whole jungle is shifting and morphing, and it's just not going to let them out of the jungle. And that's where it ends. And I'm like, yes, give me season 2. And
that was it.
Now, at the end of the day, I've had this conversation with other people too. Like, that's still a great ending. Like,
sure, yeah.
You still literally have an ending, even though you want more, you want to know what happens to them. It's still, you can sort of write like, oh, they're there. Like that's it. That's the end of your show. They're stuck in the jungle. So there is sort of that value, but it was a great finale that I was not expecting. And I'm bummed that we didn't get more of it.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going to check that out.
Maybe more writers need to take that in mind, where they write a season finale as if it could either be both a series finale and just a season finale.
Yeah, yeah. You have to be careful nowadays, especially in the streaming era. I mean, look at like the Terminator Chronicles, right? Like they had that crazy finale for Sarah Connor Chronicles, and then it got canceled too. So yeah, it's just one of those things now where Netflix and these places are going to give you a season, maybe two, but if you're not a Stranger Things, if you're not really popping, you might be gone. So plan for a finale that closes the door, but that just leaves it open just enough. Yeah, just enough that if you get lucky enough for another season, you can come back.
Nice. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, 2012. Does that sound about right for the River TV series?
Yeah, it's been a while. Thanks for aging me a little more.
We're right there with you.
Yeah, we're right there with you.
Oh, gosh.
We're right there with you, Tom. Oh, okay. Well, this has been fun. We went down some rabbit holes, but that's okay.
I loved it.
Overall, I really enjoyed Invincible season 1. I think it was a great series. A lot different from most superhero series. Megan did kind of compare it to The Boys a little bit.
Sure.
I didn't really. I watched just a few episodes of The Boys. It wasn't really for me. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. I love the concept of The Boys. I love this whole idea that a superhero group is financed through corporations. I think that was a fantastic concept. I just didn't care with the way they played it off. That's all. But I could see some similarities between Invincible and The Boys from what I watched.
Well, it's just in the violence of it. It's the harder edge superhero stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The stories are nothing alike, but
sure.
Yeah.
But overall, I think Invincible's good, and I would recommend season 1 to anyone who hasn't seen it.
Yeah, and I would recommend season 2 to you guys.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I think you sold me on the comic book. I might have to go look for it now.
It's available. You can get trades, you can get big omnibuses, and so on. Again, it's
like get it digitally. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, and then you can have way easier Steven Skips moments, like for the digital. A couple pages. All right, let's get back to this story.
Nice.
He's quick. I love it.
Yeah, he took on to the Steven Skip quick. I like that. I like that a lot.
Hey, everybody, don't forget, please check out Tom's website, Big Dog Inc., and you will find more on his page. I'm going to share the screen real quick so everybody sees the site, so you kind of get an idea for
and then
for
wherever
what that looks like.
Yeah, wherever you do your social media, you can find me. I pretty much live on Facebook. That's where I kind of focus all of my social media, but then we're on all the other places, Instagram and
there we go,
Twitter and all that other kind of stuff. But if you just want to see the books, we got you covered right there.
Yeah. So there's apparel, Aspen Years, more merch, supplies, comics, prints, original art, digital art. I recognize that, digital comics, because I did go to that page. But I want to show everybody your series, because you've got some wonderful series.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while, so whatever you like, there's probably something in there that's for you. Like I said, westerns, horror. We do a kaiju book if you like the giant monsters. Antoinette is our historical fiction. So there's a lot of stuff in there.
Well, I can say I really like the Wizard of Oz stuff. That's been very enjoyable. You did give me an issue of Critter and Ursamina.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You gave me issues of those. I just haven't read those yet. But the art is beautiful in all the books too. Amazing art.
Yeah, we've been very lucky, over the years with we worked with some of the best in the business. Speaking of Invincible, Ryan Otley did a critter cover for us in our first year.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. J. Scott Campbell, Joe Jusko, just tons and tons of people have jumped on board and helped us build, what we're doing. And then of course we found all kinds of people on our own. We were the ones that gave Natalie Sanders her first run of covers. Nia Rufino, who was a huge colorist for a while, we gave her first cover, and she's been doing stuff for us ever since. So we find our own folks. Jen Broomall and Ian Snyder. The guy who started Oz was Allison Borges. He went off to work for DC. The guy who did the first Critter book, Jose Luis, he did that first issue. He went off to DC. He's worked for everybody.
Wow.
So we've kind of been in some ways a bit of a minor league for Marvel and DC. We've found a lot of guys that they have then scooped up from us and put them to work. But that's fine. I'm not going to tell somebody no, don't go work for them. But it's cool to know that there's people that we kind of started with that clearly I had the right thought process because Marvel and DC wanted them too. So,
well, obviously, if Marvel and DC are looking at you guys and and recruiting artists from you, so yeah, I'd say you're doing something right then.
Yeah,
And I like how you put that you're like the minor leagues to Marvel and DC.
Oh, they've stolen so many ideas from me. I mean, even I'm going to take the credit right now. Even the stuff that they do, their foil facsimile things, I was doing those years and years and years before they were doing them. We called them retro foils because back in the day we didn't really do foil covers. That wasn't an option for us. Right. And so when we started to have all these anniversaries that we were doing, I was like, you know what, let's do a little bit of a celebration and take some of this old art and put it on foils and so on. So we were doing that way before they were doing it. And now they do it all the time. So, yeah, you're welcome, Marvel. And if you ever want somebody to, run some creative for you, I'm here. I can fix a lot of what's going on over there.
You might be better off going to Image than Marvel or DC.
No, he's doing good on his own. So do you think, Tom, independent publishing is becoming more and more prevalent nowadays?
Yeah.
Taking over more of a percentage of the market now?
No, not in any context of that. I mean, maybe in a general sense, yes. But so much of it is still very, very low scale. Even if you go to Kickstarter, you might have 300 campaigns running at a given time, but of those 300, most of them are making 400, 500, $1,000. They might be selling, 100 copies or something. So from a scale standpoint, no, but from the door is open for you to do it standpoint, 100%. Yeah. Because now there's really no gatekeepers anymore. So whatever you want to make, you can take essentially to market through whether you use crowdfunding or not. You can take it to market, make a book, crowdfunding, take it to a con, sell it on a website, sell it on eBay. The internet has changed all creators' abilities to do anything. And so, yeah, I see, I watch Kickstarter a lot just to kind of see what's going on, how many people are here, what are we doing, what's this, what's that,
right?
So I kind of watch trends and
sure,
surges of use and things like that, and even that stuff is different now, even from a handful of years ago. The peak times are now changing. Used to be you would have this peak time over the summer, but now the last 2 years you've had these peaks in September and October, where we've gone from 200 campaigns running to over 300. So it's different. It's interesting to watch, but it's clear that the doors are wide open. It is the Wild West for creators, whether you're doing comics, whether you're doing movies. People, you can film a movie with your phone now. It's ridiculous. So, and people do that because I've seen these movies. So it's the Wild West. If you want to make something, you can make it one way or another. And crowdfunding can help you at least get, a little nest egg ready to go if you're trying to make a movie and you need $5,000 those kinds of places can help you do it. And just make something. And once you make it, it's evergreen. You can have it forever. You'll have a book that you can sell forever. You have a movie you can sell forever. And that can lead you to other things. I mean, I do my own work, but I've also been published by Aspen Comics. I worked for Dynamite Comics. I did a book for them. I'm doing another book next year for another smaller publication called Dren Publications. So even now I'm getting like looked at from other places as like, oh, like Tom, he seems to know what he's doing. Like, let's let him do something for us too. So
can you say what you were doing for Dynamite? Are you allowed to?
Oh yeah, it's already done. We did. So Dynamite has what they call the Chaos universe, which is like purgatory and chastity and whatever else. And so a few years ago, I talked to Nick Barucci, who owns Dynamite, and I was like, what are you doing with Chaos? And he was like, well, there's these couple of things and this. And I was like, well, what about Bad Kitty, which is a character that I remembered from way back in the early 2000s. So I was like, you do anything with Bad Kitty? He was like, no. I was like, do you want to do something with Bad Kitty? And he was like, yeah, I mean, she's just sitting there. And I was like, okay, so here's what I want to do. ... I want to throw out this 2014 thing that you guys did. I don't like it. I don't want to do that multiple personality thing. I want to reset it. I want to do this, that. He was like, let's go. Let's do it. And so I wrote the script. I brought a whole bunch of Big Dog Ink people with me. CB Zane did the book. He did the art. He did the cover. We brought a bunch of cover artists that came over from Big Dog Ink. Shannon Mayer and Brian Peterson and Bill McKay. And we got some Dynamite
so almost
folks,
a Big Dog Ink.
Oh, it was a Big Dog Ink production of a Dynamite book. Yes, 100%.
Nice.
And they were great. They really let me do pretty much anything I wanted. They weren't really like hyper, like, well, you can't do and you can't do. Like, I was prepared when I turned the script in for them to be like, well, we have this happening over here and this happening over here, so we need to do a change. They were just like, no, this looks great. Like, go.
Nice.
And so we put the book out and it came out fantastic. It looks awesome. I have no idea if they're going to do anything with it beyond the Kickstarter that we did. That's their option if they've decided to do it. But I have been greenlit from them to do another book with another one of their characters that has been just sort of languishing around for a while. So I'll be next year. Like I said, next year is our 15-year anniversary. So I'm going to be a little busy doing stuff, but it's in the back of my head. I've been developing it. I know kind of what I want it to be, but I need to find an artist who can sort of take this thought process and really run with it, because it's sort of really high concept stuff. It needs some design element to it that we gotta really push the limits, because this book is going to be, I mean, you guys, we talk about the violence and stuff with Invincible and all of that. Like, this issue that I want to do with this particular book, it's going to be very like that.
Okay.
And that's something that I don't usually do. But as soon as I started to realize what I could do with this character and with this concept of who it is, I was like, yo, we could like really go bananas with this sort of origin opening thing. And I pitched it to them, and they were like, that sounds all right. So now I just kind of have to finalize it, flesh it out, be like, look, this is how it's going to work, guys. And then I do have a way to kind of, if they want to, if they're okay with it, I do have a way to tie it into the Bad Kitty book, so that we can then even do a third issue and like kind of have a trilogy of things to put it all together. But that'll be up to them if they want to do that.
Nice.
I do have one other question for you. Being that you've been doing this for 15 years, almost 15 years and stuff, I heard a guy who does a lot of content marketing for folks and stuff like that, but Devin Nash, and he said that if there's any one skill that any creator, doesn't matter who you are, needs to work on, he goes, that's sales.
For sure.
Sales and marketing.
Everything is sales. Everything is sales and marketing. I'm terrible at it. I've learned things over the years, but one of my problems is, and again, this comes back to sort of like the digital problem, like it's a me problem, is you can't sell me anything. No one can sell me anything. Like, I don't care if I watch your commercial. I don't care if I'm talking to you. You can't sell me anything. I either see it and want it, or I see it and I don't want it. You can't convince me. And so I always come from a marketing sense of like, I think that that's how the general populace is too. And that's false. And I also know that that's completely false. That's where all these hype men and marketing and advertising exists for a reason, because they know how to make people interested in whatever it is. And so just over the years, I've learned how to talk about products and things and myself. I've learned how to do, I basically taught myself Photoshop so that I can make all the images that you see on all of our stuff. I did all of that stuff. So I taught myself Photoshop to do that stuff, but I'm still not great at like the real hook. You need this because like that. I'm not good at. I can talk about it. I can tell you what it is. This is how it works. This is what's going on. This is the artist. This is whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still not great at and you should take this home because I need $20. Like that's what it is. I need $20. So please buy my paper product and take it home. But he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. And there's way too many people that I see on podcasts like this.
You did get me to buy this.
Yeah. See, so I got a little bit of cred. I've seen a lot of people that get on podcasts like these, and they're too stiff. They don't know how to even talk about what they're doing. It's just too well, I hired this guy and he did the art and I really like what he did. And then we sent it to the colorist, and the colorist, I really like him because he likes Star Wars too. And it doesn't work. You can't, you can't be that guy. You have to be able to, really, I think step one is sell yourself, because if people like you, they'll probably have a better percentage chance to be like, Tom's a weird guy. He's probably writing weird stuff. I like weird stuff. I'm going to try this book. So if you struggle to sell your product, at least focus on a way to sell yourself. Like for me, I talk about movies all the time on my Facebook and stuff. It became to a point where people started to hashtag everything I did with hashtag Tom hates everything, because I'm notoriously brutal on my reviews. And so I'm
gonna have to add that into our hashtag
for sure. Yeah. And so it becomes something that even if they don't agree with you, even if they're like, no, I love The Last Jedi, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but whatever. It opens the door for them to interact with you, right? In some capacity, even if it's not the comics. Like, hey, ultimately I want you over here with the comics. But if we're going to start, we'll start here and we'll talk about Star Wars and Godzilla and whatever, and then we'll move you along to, hey, by the way, you like Godzilla, I have a kaiju book. Hey, by the way, you like sharks, I have a shark book, whatever it is. So start by learning how to sell yourself if you're struggling to sell a product.
Well, I have to say, you were probably the one I talked to the most at the con when you and I met. Mm-hmm. I kept coming back to your display and everything, and so I think you sold yourself well for me. So, and right away I told Steven, I go, we got to have this guy on the podcast.
Right. I was like, all right, let's do it.
So, I don't know. I think you're getting better at it.
I appreciate that. Well, like I said, I definitely can sell myself. I definitely can talk about things that I know about, which is why you want to be on that Dracula show. It's like, I've seen Hammer stuff, but I haven't seen that one. And then I was struggling to even find a way to even watch it. So it was kind of tough.
I'm glad we didn't force you into that anyway. So.
Yeah, no. And then when you got on the Invincible thing, I was like, yeah, that's actually something I know about, which is great. So
right. Well, and we even talked about Invincible a little bit at the con, and Steven and I had been discussing, talking about it in the show, and I was like, wait a minute. Tom's a fan of Invincible. I think this is the right topic for him. So yeah, so I threw it out there, and you're like, oh yeah, we can talk Invincible all day. So.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Tom, it has been fabulous to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Of course, I appreciate the invite. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we normally only go an hour, so I'm like, this is great. Oh my goodness. So everybody, real quick, just to go back, please check out Tom's site at bigdogink.com. Big Dog Ink, BIGDOGINK.com. And please check him out. Please check out the books there. Yes, Buy physical. Buy the physical media.
Buy physical. Or again, if you're a digital guy and you want that stuff, we do them during our Kickstarters, and you'll be able to get digital a little more. Now we also do. There's a place called Global Comics, COMIX, that we do have some digital stuff available there. Some odds and ends of things. So if you are a digital person and you want to dive into that, there is some stuff up there as well.
Well, otherwise, kill trees and buy paper.
For sure. 100%. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. How's the best way that people can support you and what you're doing and with your team?
I mean, basically everything we do is Kickstarter first now. So we go, I mean, everything is direct to customer as it is. So it's Kickstarter, again, direct to customer. Once we get the books and the backers get all their stuff, anything that we have left over will go on our website or on eBay, or we do live sales on Facebook. We work with a group called the Comic Book Shopping Network. There's a page, a group there, where it's basically like the home shopping network. And we just sell comics and toys, and there's a whole bunch of retailers that are on there. So
what was that called again?
The Comic Book Shopping Network, CBSN.
CBSN. Okay.
Yeah. And so I do a show on Sundays and Wednesdays. And on Sundays, I generally do like just general comics. Like I buy collections and flip them, Marvel and DC and Dark Horse and stuff. And then Wednesdays, we generally do mostly just Big Dog Ink stuff. And then we get out to cons, and we'll be doing a bunch of cons next year. I'm from Michigan, so we do a lot of Midwest stuff. We don't really get out west too far, although I think I'm going to be at San Diego Comic-Con this year because Antarctic Press has said that I could come out and be at their booth because they're publishing Critter. And
my wife is doing, Mike, I have not told you this. This has happened in the last week. We are looking at going to San Diego Comic-Con next year as a gift for me to go. So
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it. We haven't got tickets yet because I think the site crashed for tickets, and so it's supposed to be here in like I think next week they're going to try to reopen it to get tickets. So if we can get tickets, that's our goal. So
awesome.
Tom, I will definitely, if you're there, I'll connect you to look that up. What'd you say, Mike?
I said awesome, and I hate you at the same time.
It's a bucket list thing. It's been great. I've been able to do a couple of bucket list things over the last several years, and so that was one of mine. And so my wife
was a wild experience, man. My first San Diego was 1992. It is not what it is now. Like 1992, we show up, we have to go to get our tickets at a hotel. They're like, no, you don't get tickets at the con. You have to go to a hotel and get. Oh, okay, we got our tickets. So we come back the next day and we park. When you see it, you'll understand why this story makes no sense. So there's parking underneath the convention center. We get there a handful of hours early. We park directly. We just drive up, park directly under the convention center, just go right in. That doesn't happen anymore. Like that doesn't happen. You are parking miles away from this con.
Right.
And as I'm driving in, I see like a line of the people to get out. I'm like, oh, I guess that's the line. And so we park, we go in the line, and there's like maybe 100 people. Because again, we're there a couple of hours early. There's like maybe 100 people down the side of the building. And I'm like, I'm not standing in that line. 100 people. Now it's thousands upon thousands of people are in line to get into this thing. I'm like, I'm not standing in that line. So we walk to the back. We just walk to the back, and up the back, there's these stairs that take you up to the second or third level or whatever, called the pavilion area. And we just walk up the stairs. Doors are open. We just open the door, go in. We're looking around. We're like, okay, I guess we have to go back down to the con escalator, down to the escalator, through the back doors, no security, no nothing. We just wander through. We have our badges, but we're there like 2 hours early. We just wander into the back of the convention center, and we're just in there 2 hours early, and no one has stopped us. No one has even looked at us.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Like, no, not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I mean, we even just drove down that day and found a hotel. Like that doesn't happen. You've got, if you're going to go, you got to plan your hotel and the whole thing way out. It has since doubled in size. They've expanded it. Like it's a wild experience now.
Okay. All right. Well, as we are Midwest, everybody, we are doing the Midwest goodbye because we keep going. We keep trying to close out.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my
Hey,
goodness.
Tom, before you go, before we all go, you said you're from Michigan. What part of Michigan are you from?
Basically, Grand Rapids area.
Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have family in Sheboygan.
Okay.
So, see, Grand Rapids. That you're still lower peninsula, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
are
as we say, we're here.
right. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Good glove. So that makes you a troll, by the way.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and we get over to the big con in Michigan is usually Motor City in Detroit, and that's like May every year. So we were there for the first time this year, and we'll be back hopefully next year for our 15-year anniversary.
Well, I hope that
Nice.
you had a good reception here at the little bitty MegaCon.
I've been doing that with them for a number of years. I've known them for a while. So
really?
I've done the one that they do like in Wheaton, and we did the one that was up in Wisconsin, and yeah. So we know those guys. Yeah.
Well, see,
Cool.
we used to have the big St. Louis con
Right
over in St. Louis in downtown.
Yeah.
And Stephen and I actually went to the first one that
2015.
was 2015. And that was a great show. We had a fun time at that. And then Megan and I went to another one, and then unfortunately they just stopped it. I think that's the Wizard World Con.
The Wizard World,
yeah. That was nice. And then I'd heard that MegaCon was coming, and I'm like, oh wow, that's going to be down the street from my house. That's awesome, And it's so funny because the comic book shop I go to, the girl that manages it, she's like, yeah, he came in and asked me if I was going to have a show. No, I'm not going to have a show at the flea market. I was like, I like the flea market. What are you talking about? In fact, I'll probably be going there after we get done here. So I just hope you had a good reception here in Belleville, and I hope that you guys.
Yeah, I think his thing is, and we keep saying MegaCon, it's MightyCon.
Oh, MightyCon, sorry.
Yeah, MegaCon is the Florida one. Yeah.
We should probably call it the right name, right?
Yeah, MightyCon. I think that the trick to them is they keep moving the venue, and so it's hard for the people that hey, MightyCon's over. No, it's not over there. Now it's over here. Now it's over there. Now it's over there. It's hard to sort of maintain and build a community for the con if you keep moving it around. So hopefully they'll be able to find like a
Collinsville too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what she was saying. She was like, I liked it better when it was in Collinsville.
Yeah, when it was in that building last year, he had a bigger crowd. It was it wasn't like the flea market, right? Like right. People talk about. So it had a different feel. There were definitely more artists and everything. It was a different vibe. So I mean, you never know why things need to change, but if he can sort of solidify, like, this is it, this is where we are, this is where we're going to be. I think that'll help him grow the con.
Okay. All right.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I'm pulling up their Facebook page too. Man, you've given me so much information today. This has been fabulous.
I've been doing comics for 15 years, writing comics, but I mean, I've been a lifelong nerd. So it's all of this has been, I remember seeing Star Wars in '77 when I was like 6 years old.
Yep.
I remember The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, standing in a lot. In fact, here I saw it in Greenville here at the Silver Theater, which doesn't exist anymore, where it was a one-screen theater, and people would literally be lined up around the block to see the movie, because it was like, okay, well, here's 100 people, you all go into this one, and then the next 100 people get the next screening, and the next 100 people get the next screening. Wow. So you would have hundreds of people just lined up all day waiting to get into this one screen theater. So yeah, I mean, it's I grew up with the VHS things coming to VHS, and
if you were 6, you and I are probably the same age.
Yeah, it's been everything that I've done. My first comic book I bought here in Michigan at a flea market called the what is it, Turk what the hell do they call it now? I can't think of what they call it. But yeah, I saw a Godzilla comic on somebody's table, and I didn't know what a comic book was, but I knew what Godzilla was. And so I bought that for 50 cents and took it home, and that's my origin story for comics. It was like, this is, what the hell is this? What is this? Give me more of these. You go back and like, you got more of this? And he's like, yeah, I got a couple here and there or whatever. And
did you get the facsimile re-release of Godzilla #1 by Marvel?
No, I have my original copy that I bought
nice
30 years ago. I also have a 9.8 graded copy that apparently is now worth money.
I'm sure it is.
It wasn't at the time. I got it for like $100. It's a lot more than that now. So Godzilla 16 was the first comic that I bought, and it's basically a big headshot of Godzilla roaring, and there's a whole bunch of cowboys that are like lassoing his teeth and stuff because he's like in the Wild West. So that was the first comic I ever bought. I actually ended up getting the original art for that 25 years later, because it was on eBay of all places. No, the story's crazier than that. 1992, when I go to San Diego for the first time, when I actually go in the front door, normally, I go in the front door, there's a guy selling comic book art, original pages, and I didn't know that was a thing. I'd never seen it before. So I go in and I'm like, wow, this is like really cool. And I look down and I'm flipping through pages, and there's the cover. I'm like, wait a minute, that's the actual drawing of the cover, the Herb Trimpe cover. And he's like, yeah, all of this is original, pen and ink stuff. And I'm like, holy cow. And so I'm picking it up and I'm looking at it like, well, this is like really cool. I want to get this. And he's like, how much? And how much is it? He says, all the prices are on the back. So I flip it over and it says $250. And I said, absolutely not. And I put it back down. and I just assumed for the rest of my life that I will never see that again. But I became an art dealer for a while for original art. And so I would watch eBay stuff and just kind of see what was going on. And I would put in every now and then Godzilla, Herb Trimpe art. Damned if it didn't show up. And I was like, no way this is happening. And so the dude wanted like $900 or something for it. And I was like, well, let me watch this and see if anyone actually buys it, so I can just kind of keep track of where this thing is. And he didn't buy it. No one bought it at the 900 price. And so I was like, I have to take a shot at this. And so I just sent him a message. I said, look, this didn't sell. I'm sure you're probably going to list it again, but here's my story. And would you take 600 for it? And he was like, yeah, I'll take 600 for it. So it took me 30 years extra time and an extra $350 to get it. But I finally got it. I got the original. And then it turns out that Herb Trimpe was at Pittsburgh Comic Con when I was there one year. So I actually got to take it to Herb and have him sign it. And he signed I still have that first comic too. It is beat to hell. But I've never replaced it. It's that original comic. So I had him sign my original comic and the book and the art. And he freaked out. He was like, where did you get this? I was like, eBay. He's like, of course, eBay. That's where everybody gets everything. And then, of course, Herb passed a few months right after that. So I almost missed that opportunity to meet Herb and tell him, like, hey, I mean, you were a big part of, not just my childhood, but I make comics now because I bought that Godzilla comic and I discovered what a comic book is. So
that's
wild,
a great
crazy
story.
Crazy
Oh
story.
my goodness.
Wow. Very cool.
That's the full origin story of Tom Hutchinson in comics.
We got it all, everybody.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
Oh man.
Well, if we want to talk Godzilla, we will definitely be having you back on.
100%. 100%. Love it. Yeah. I had a guy from Toho on one of my shows one time. Yeah. He was super fun to talk to. I used to do a movie show many years ago, but one of our co-hosts ended up dying from COVID/cancer. And so we never really got back to it. But yeah, we had a guy from Toho come on. We had Adam Marcus, who was the director for Friday the 13th, the final Friday, Jason Goes to Hell. He was the director for that. That's where the whole thing started. Is friends of mine and I were debating, like, what's the worst Friday the 13th movie? Is it part 5 or is it part 9? And we had all kind of decided on part 9, but then we all ran into Adam on Facebook, and I was like, do you want to come defend your movie on our show? And he was like, hell yeah, I do. So he comes on for 2 hours to talk all Friday the 13th stuff. And then at the end of the show, I said, well, it's official. Friday the 13th part 5 is now the worst Jason movie, not Friday not Final Friday. So we had a good time. Yeah, it's wild what these shows can do, man. I mean, you do them long enough, you get them into the right circles, you meet the right people at a con, and suddenly you've got movie stars on your podcast. So keep at it, man. You never know who you're going to get.
We've had some surprising guests.
Yeah.
We've had we've had Eric July. He's the founder of Ripaverse.
Yep.
The biggest independent comic book company out there right now. And we've had
Mark Anthony Austin.
Mark Anthony Austin,
the actor, previs guy, the actor who was he was the walk-on Boba Fett in the specialized edition and stuff.
Okay,
but he actually is just a previs artist, and he does a lot of work. He's worked on a lot of movies. It's fun to talk with him. We've had Mark Johnson on, the guy who does all the Star Wars.
Mark Thompson.
Did I say Johnson? Yeah, thank you, Thompson. Thank you, Michael. He does all the voice acting for the audiobooks, the Star Wars audiobooks and more. And he's at a lot of cons. He also does a lot of voice acting and a lot of like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. Yep. It's been fun. Ralph McQuarrie, not Ralph McQuarrie, but
not Ralph McQuarrie. I wish we.
Sorry, yeah, but his
we
protege.
weren't on. We hadn't started before Ralph died. So
right. No, who? Why can't I remember his name all of a sudden?
Yeah, from Rebel Force Radio. Gosh, I can't.
Both of them.
Well, we've had all three.
We've had all three Rebel Force Radio on, yeah. But it's been fun. You're absolutely right, Tom. It's been great to meet all kinds of different people. And I'll be open with you. This has been a fabulous time with you. And I really appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for the invitation. Anytime.
Yeah. All right. Well, we better wrap up because I can't believe we keep doing the Midwest goodbye. We've been doing it for 40 minutes. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking us out here. Please check out our website at www.twogeeksmic.com. That is the number 2, GEEKSMIC.com. That's where you can find all things Two Geeks. That's our main site, but that will take you to all kinds of pages, which will take you to our merch page, which is also twogeeksmicmerch.com if you want to go to that page as well. If you want to help support us, and all the money goes to pay for Mike's beard trimming, it is ko-fi.com/2geeks, ko-fi.com/2geeks. And we have extra stuff on there as well. So don't forget, you can find the hub at where the upcoming shows are and what we're going to be doing. Well, at least the ones we've got planned. That's not the night before. I'm just kidding.
That does happen from time to time.
It sure does. Mike, do you have anything else?
And if you've made it this far, please make sure and go and like and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and all the other socials. We're on pretty much, well, we're not on Instagram, but anyway.
TikTok.
Yeah, or TikTok. I'm not doing TikTok. Sorry. We are on X. I'm just not real. I'm not very active on X. I should say.
We're pretty much more better at YouTube and Facebook and COVID.
Yeah, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble. We're new on Rumble. So of course we're not live this morning on Rumble. I will get it uploaded though this afternoon. But make sure if you follow us on Facebook, you'll get notifications of every time we go live. We go live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You do the math on the rest because I don't like math. With that said, anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right. With that said, I cue up the outro music.
Tom, again, thank you for being with us. It's been fabulous.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being on, and we will definitely be reaching out to you to talk about all kinds of geeky things.
Yeah. All the things.
All right. With that said, please make sure and do not Steven skip this episode because we are much more better than the rest. Thank you for joining us today on the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. Tune in next week when we will have more news and reviews. Until then,
always be with you.